Hello, everyone. Welcome to SPI Health and Safety's first webinar of the year. Thank you very much for being with us this Wednesday afternoon. My name is Amélie Leduc. I'm a marketing advisor here at SPI. For those who don't know SPI that much, basically we're a Canadian company that was founded 45 years ago. Back then we specialized mainly in fire protection, but over time SPI's mission has grown, and today we want to be the single most valuable partner for companies which value health and safety as a whole in their workplace. So the whole team is really happy to be with you today after a few months of silence. And when I say silence, I guess I should say a few months of planning, because indeed we're back this year with an amazing program that I'm pretty sure that you will meet your expectations. Last year, at the end of every single webinar, as well as on our social media, we surveyed you. We wanted to ask you questions about how you liked our webinars and what you maybe liked a little less. And also about the topics that you wanted us to address. I can tell you that the team has considered every single one of your comments, and we've tried to improve what could be improved in order to meet your expectations. So we've worked really hard over the past few months to come up with our plan for the year. And thank you very much, actually, for taking the time every time at the end of the webinars to answer our surveys. This is really important for us, and we really appreciate it. So this year we've planned a very interesting year in covering different risks in OHS with our experts, but as well as with some of our collaborating experts. So we have a newcomer this year who's joined the SBI's event team, Francis Labbé.
Very excited about the opportunity. Thanks, Amélie.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Actually, Francis has been part of SBI for a number of years, close to 3.
Yep.
And he was a trainer and an advisor in the consulting and training department. But Francis has recently become a business development representative for the same department. So basically, he's here in order to make sure that you guys are aware of the risk that you have in your company. And if you don't know, he's here to make sure that he can help, that SPI can help you
address those risks.
Yeah, and be safe and go home at night.
Exactly.
So we are going to tackle a subject today that we haven't touched on yet in our webinar series, which is working at height with freestanding guardrails. Well, I hear you say, no, it's not true. We've tackled fall protection or working at heights, but actually this is the first time that we will address it by presenting tailor-made solutions like the guardrail freestanding systems. In fact, over the past year, SPI has developed a partnership with a Canadian company, which is named Delta Prevention. Delta specializes in the design and installation of safety and fall prevention equipment. And I have the privilege today to be joined by one of their experts, which is Dominic Lafrance. Hi, Dominic.
Hi.
I'm glad that you could join us today for this webinar.
Happy to be here.
Dominic, your title at Delta is you're basically the customer service supervisor. So what do you do exactly at Delta?
So many things, but mostly I'm really here to support customers, technical questions, sales questions, whatever the need might be. I'm kind of the main and first point of contact for customers.
Good. All right. Before getting to the heart of the matter today, I just want to go through our housekeeping. The webinar will last for approximately 45 to 55 minutes. We will end with a question period. However, throughout the whole webinar, you have access to a Q&A box on your console. By all means, feel free to ask your questions at any time. We may answer your question during the webinar, or we may wait at the end, but you can be sure that your question will be answered. We want this presentation to be interactive despite being virtual, so by all means, do not hesitate. And if maybe you're shy to ask a question, well, just keep in mind that if you ask the question, probably someone else is wondering the same thing. So you may do the.
And the fun thing about a webinar is that we don't see who's asking the question, so don't be shy.
Yeah, and we won't mention your last name, so don't worry. All right, so Francis, first of all, what are the objectives of today's webinar?
Well, first off, we'll try to demonstrate why freestanding guardrails are the best solution to falling hazards. And I'll try to explain that with the hierarchy of controls. So for those who don't know what the hierarchy of control is, we'll present it in the next couple of slides. So we'll talk about that first, and second off, we'll learn more about the unique features of the Delta prevention fall protection solution. So we'll see the different designs that Delta can bring to secure some hazardous areas on at your workplaces with guardrails. So we'll let the folks from Delta talk to us about that in the second portion of the webinar.
And there's a lot, I can tell you.
Yeah, exactly. I was pretty surprised earlier on today when they presented us with all the solutions, but there's quite a few. So, so hang on tight.
Yeah. So before sorry about that. Go ahead. The hierarchy of fall protection, maybe just.
Yeah, well, first off, the hierarchy of fall protection, well, first off, it's a guide of best practices. So it's a guide that enables us to make sure that our work at heights procedures that's in place is really the best procedure. Like if I can put this in another way, let's say that I'm doing some maintenance work on a ventilation system. Well, is my harness with my 6-foot lanyard attached to an anchor point really the best option? You know, is there any other options that's available to me to protect myself? So the hierarchy of fall protection is a guide that enables us to make the right decisions. And it also helps us to question our work procedures. Like I just said, like, is the equipment I'm using really the best equipment for the job?
So always, because our goal is to make working at heights safer, right?
Well, yeah, for work at heights, but you can always use a hierarchy of control for all the different fields in health and safety. So either it's lockout, tag out, confined spaces, electrical work, there's always a hierarchy of control that you can use to try to limit your risk exposure.
Okay, so before we get we dig deeper into that hierarchy, we wanted to ask you an interactive question. So we want to know what type of protection does your company prioritize as of now? So is it A, the elimination of the danger at the source? Is it B, the collective systems in terms of freestanding guardrails? Is it C, the travel restraint system? Or is it D, fall arrest system? So you have a few seconds to. Just give us one moment. Yeah, we'll come back to this interactive question. Sorry, we have a technical problem. So we'll get back to this question. So we'll move on with the hierarchy of fall protection.
Yeah, exactly. Like I talked on earlier, the hierarchy of fall protection. Well, first off, the first step is always hazard elimination. We should always try to eliminate a fall hazard at the source, or any hazard at the source. Okay, so we should always try to eliminate it, but it's not always possible. Let's take, for example, a ventilation system. If I need to change a filter on that system, well, it's not possible to bring the system down just to change the filter, you know, to do the work on a ground level. So I won't be able to actually eliminate the source of danger. So that brings me up to the second step, which is a passive fall protection system. And our guardrails, they fall into that kind of protection system. And why do we say passive? It's because, well, the worker that's using that kind of system, well, they don't need to ask themselves the question, how am I going to protect myself? The guardrail is there to protect you, to protect the worker. So they don't need to wear a harness. They don't need a lanyard or an SRL or a rope grab for that kind of system. So the guardrail is there to protect the worker. And the fun thing about that too is that, well, the workers that use that kind of system, they don't need training sessions to use a guardrail. Mm-hmm. So if like a roof is protected with guardrails, people can go and work on the roof without any training sessions.
That can be very convenient for
exactly. Whereas number three, the fall restraint system, or number 4, the fall arrest system, well, with these systems, you need to wear a harness. You need to have a lifeline, a lanyard, or an SRL, or a certified anchor point. You need those things, and you need training session also. And with these systems, the 3 and 4, well, you need the equipment. Every year, you need to certify that equipment. If ever there's a fall, well, you need to replace that equipment. You need to plan a fall rescue plan, because we know that a fall victim, there's a 15-minute gap for him to be rescued. If ever there's an injury or death, well,
Yeah.
that has
We're we're
yeah,
we're in a
exactly.
different level, which we don't want to go.
Exactly. So like sometimes when I used to be a trainer advisor, people were telling me, yeah, well, number two, we want number two, the guardrail system, but it's too expensive. Well, when you come and take into consideration all the costs from number three and number four, sometimes using a harness and a lifeline and some anchor points, it comes way more expensive than number two. So
Before we go to the next slide, I want to
yeah.
get back to the previous slide because we did figure out what our little technological problem. So we're ready to ask you the actual interactive questions. So again, you have 4 choices. We want to know what type of protection your company prioritizes. So you may choose either or. We'll give you a few seconds. Okay. So I think, yeah, a couple more seconds. Don't be shy. We just want to know we're talking to whom. Like, what's your reality? What are you guys dealing with on a daily basis?
I think maybe here, if I can add something before the okay.
No,
Well, I was gonna ask something when they were answering,
okay.
but like I know a lot of people are gonna say we prioritize the elimination of danger at the source.
Which is actually.
Yeah, I was seeing the results on our screen. That's why I was gonna add this comment. But like I said, sometimes it's not always possible. So, like I know that everybody's going to try to eliminate the risk at the source, but is that the reality of their enterprise? Were they available, able to eliminate all the dangers at
Is
the
that the
source?
wish or the actual situation?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is that the wish or the actual situation?
Well, you can see on your screen that a third of you guys are prioritizing fall arrest systems, while a few percentage are prioritizing, collective systems, non-travel restraint systems, and as we just mentioned, the majority of you guys are trying to eliminate the danger at the source. Dominic, what are your thoughts?
Well,
When
I'm
we
not
look at these,
surprised and kind of happy that the first step is trying to remove the danger at the source. I am noticing, however, that there's 3 times as many people doing fall arrest as collective system. So I'm thinking maybe a lot of people don't know, all the ins and outs and extra costs associated with fall arrest, as Francis mentioned. And maybe, today we're trying to up that 10% a bit more on the collective system.
yeah.
So I'm noticing not that many people use it. So it's often a matter of not knowing how the system works. So.
And people have asked us to talk about to go deeper into the fall or like into working at heights. So that's why we created this webinar today. So that's perfect. All right. So I guess we can go back to your slide.
Yeah, well, that
Francis.
slide was I
Yeah.
was actually finished with that slide.
Okay.
So like I said, the first level hazard elimination should always be like the first step. Should always look into trying to eliminate the danger at the source. But like I said, it's not always possible. So when that's not possible, well, you go to level 2, which is the passive fall protection systems, the guardrail system. Okay, so when 1 is impossible, we should always try to consider 2 to see if it's possible. And like I said, a lot of people think that number 2 is expensive, but when we take into consideration the costs on a long-term effect of number 3 and number 4, sometimes these costs they come up to be more expensive than number 2.
Yep. We're going to ask you another question. For those the 30% of people who've answered that they use a travel restraint or fall arrest systems, in that case was more fall arrest systems. What is your main concern? Is it to your employee training or your personal training as well? Is it the engineering plan in terms of permanent system? Is it the maintenance and compliance of your systems, or you do not use this system? So we'll give you a few seconds again to answer. You may choose more than one answer this time, so maybe A and C, or your reality or your concern. So give you a few more seconds. Don't be shy. We want to know what are your concerns. Always, the objective is always to answer your questions today and to make sure that you finish this webinar. You go back to your work or your home and you say, okay, this was I understand now what my concerns are and how I can tackle these concerns. So perfect. So you can see the results on your screen. Awesome. You guys stop being shy. So we could see half of you guys are concerned with employee training. More than half of you are concerned with the maintenance and compliance of your systems. And a few of you are concerned about engineering plans. And well, some of you did not use the system. So what are your thoughts about the training and the maintenance and compliance?
Well, I'm happy to see these results because it tells us that people know that they need to train their employees to use a fall protection system. So that's a good thing. Where it's not a good thing is that they're concerned about the training of their employees, So
or themselves, actually, they may feel they are lacking
not qualified
training.
or anything. Okay, so and the 64% of maintenance and compliance of system, that's good too, because they know that like an anchor point needs to be certified every year, and the equipment too, or the anchor point needs to be certified in following the explanations of the engineer and the engineer plan of the anchor point. But usually it's around every year or every 2 or 3 years that it needs to be certified. So I'm pretty happy with these results.
Yeah, I think some also the harnesses. A lot of people need training. It needs to be double checked. So I'm happy to see that's a concern because we actually want to address this later on with the freestanding guardrails and how it's meant to easily attain those compliances, those standards.
Yeah, and part of you, if you don't know, one part of SBI's mandate is to offer training, but also expertise of like auditing what your practices are and see where you may need a rescue plan or you may need different assistance in different risks. So part of the training as well. Francis, you were a trainer advisor before, so I'm pretty sure that.
Yeah, exactly. I did audits in some enterprises that they didn't know where to tie off when they were doing work at heights. They didn't know what kind of anchor point to use. They needed help with the training of their employees, so that's
an SPI can help
and help in all those fields.
Yeah,
exactly.
Good. All right, thanks for answering that question. Now let's talk about the recommended solution.
Yeah, so the recommended solution is, like we said, when we can't eliminate the danger at the source, we need to look into guardrails. And why guardrails? Well, first off, it's a collective system versus an individual protection. So using guardrails, it enables us to work on, let's say, a rooftop with many different workers. It's not only like an individual system. It's not only one person at a time that can use a guardrail. It's as many workers as you want that can use the same protection. That's a positive point. There's no management of PPEs, so we don't need harnesses, we don't need lanyards, we don't need SRLs to work with guardrails. Like I said, it's a passive system, it's a collective system, so we don't need those type of equipments. There's no need for a prevention plan with guardrails, and it eliminates the risk of falling. So it isolates the risk of falling. So these are all the positive points of guardrails.
Very positive points, I would say.
And some points about the how can I say that? The standards of the construction of the guardrail. Well, there's the upper railing needs to be between 900 and 1100 millimeters, so 42 inches. The middle railing just needs to be halfway, depending on the height of the upper railing, and it must be able to withstand a force of 1 kilonewton. So if you're not used to working with kilonewtons, it's
I'm not.
225 pounds,
Okay.
roughly. Okay, so these are the characteristic of guardrails.
Something I might add, these apply to both freestanding, like Delta does, or any fixed system. So it's the same standard used by the National Building Code.
Okay, good to mention. But Francis, all guardrails are not created equal, are they?
Well, they all do the same thing. They all protect the worker from a fall hazard, but like let's take a look at the picture that we have right here. There's two different types of car, and we could have put any car there. We could have put like I drive a Subaru Outback. You drive a Porsche. I saw you, eh?
Yes, right. No, a
Yeah.
Mazda 3, Francis. A
Oh,
Mazda
okay.
3.
I thought it was a Porsche. So we could have put a pickup or a Jeep or whatever. Okay. So the meaning here is that you see those two cars. There's four doors. There's four wheels. It gets you from point A to point B. Okay.
But one
So
is a
it
Ford.
does the same job, but it doesn't do the same job the same way.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the same thing with guardrails. Here the Ford is a gas vehicle and the Tesla is an electric vehicle. So it gets you from point A to point B, but not the same way.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll take a look at the different types of guardrails that we have.
Oh, but before, like I said, I'm full of surprise, Francis. We have another question for you. Before we get into the guardrails, we want to know what is the most important criteria for you when choosing a guardrail system? Would it be A, it has to meet the standards, B, it has to be easy to install, C, the durability of the system, or D, the aesthetic? So we'll give you a few seconds. Oh, you guys are less shy. You've already jumped on the answering the poll question. That's awesome. So we'll give you a few more seconds. All right. Okay. Perfect. So the results are on your screen. So what do we have here? 85% of you guys are concerned about meeting the standards. 46% are concerned about easy installation. 46% about the durability. Oh, nobody's concerned about the aesthetics. But
what's fun about Delta is that their product meets the standard. They're easy to install. There's a high degree of durability with their systems, and
they look good.
They look good.
He was not coerced to say this in any way or form. That's directly from SPI, just saying.
No, I mean, it's true. Francis will see more. Dominique's going to talk about it, but definitely the freestanding guardrail systems really do meet the standards, are easy to install, the durability, and they look pretty good. So, all right. Thanks for answering.
So like I said before on the slide with the two cars, there's mainly two different types of guardrails that we can see on the market today. There's the fixed guardrail and the freestanding guardrail. And we can see that like the main difference between these two is that the freestanding guardrail, we don't need to actually puncture the membrane to install it. So there's no damage done to your roof or your structure with freestanding guardrails.
Whereas fixed guardrail, we can see right on the picture.
Yeah, exactly. You have to drill holes in the structure or in the membrane to install the system. And other positive points about the freestanding guardrail systems is that, well, first off, we can see it's not anchored to the building, like I said. So fixed guardrails, yes, they are anchored to the building. So you need to drill holes in either the membrane or the structure of the building. For the fixed guardrails, you need an engineer plan. It's required. For the freestanding guardrail, no, but if ever it comes up as a question later on, Delta actually they have an engineer plan that says that it responds to the specification of guardrail systems. It's fixed guardrails are not quick of installation, whereas freestanding guardrails they are, and fixed guardrails can be moved or modified, whereas the Delta freestanding guardrail can be.
So if I'm,
modified.
For instance, my company's growing, I'm adding an extension to the building, I could definitely reuse what I already have and just complement.
Yeah, it's easily adaptable, or you can add sections onto it. I mean, it's a pretty simple install and modification process for freestanding guardrails. Since it's not fixed, you don't need to unbolt it to the structure and then fill your holes and stuff. It's a non-issue for freestanding.
And as you mentioned too earlier, Francis, when you have a fixed guardrail, once it's done, you need to call the roofing company. They need to come to.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say you're drilling a hole in your membrane, then like you need to call a roofing company so roofers can come and like fix the holes that you've just put in your roof so there's no leaks or anything.
Good. So we've talked about Delta, guardrails, guardrails, but Delta, who are you guys?
Who are we? We are actually a Canadian company. We are a manufacturer of permanent, non-penetrating rooftop fall protection solutions. I say permanent because it's not meant for construction. It's really meant to be permanent. It can work in that situation, but it's meant to be left on the rooftop. You can see an example in the picture. It is that aluminum rails with those recycled rubber counterweights. That's our main system, and that's what we do, often called ballasted systems also. So that's what we do. We manufacture this product, or this, I could say, this range of product.
Yeah.
So throughout our range of product, we use unique materials, like you've seen in the previous picture. You have those black recycled rubber counterweights. They are 50 pounds each, while most of our competitors actually all use steel, concrete, or cast iron. What makes us different is our durability. Obviously, rubber will not crack like concrete. It will not rust. And it will not damage the membrane. So it's actually easy to pick up and move. So it's actually easily dropped onto the rooftop. And let's say you actually physically drop it from a few inches or feet, it will not damage your membrane like obviously concrete or steel would. So that's kind of our main piece of the product. The next big piece of our solution is the aluminum railing. So ours is anodized aluminum. Our competitors mostly use galvanized or painted steel. So the advantages of using aluminum is it's a lower weight, so it's actually way easier to install and move about for the employees, thus making a quick and easy installation, like Francis mentioned. It adds less weight to the rooftop because you see you do add weight for the counterweights, but whatever else you can keep light, that's just easier. And being anodized aluminum, there is no risk of rust or discoloration, so it stays nice. Although people did not mention the aesthetics. Good to know. It'll remain looking the same for years and years.
That's good, yeah. And we see less weight on the rooftop with the winter that we're barely getting out of. I mean, the snow on the tops. We've seen several companies or buildings falling down. I mean, this is something to consider because it's becoming every year we hear more about the weight on the rooftop. Like, we need to consider.
And having rubber counterweights is, maybe I had not mentioned, does provide all the weight and also a lot of traction. So we don't have to put as much weight because it does really stick to the membrane. So that's kind of cool.
That's very good. Yeah.
So why us? We are proudly Canadian. So our product is made in Canada. And we offer the best warranty in the industry. And we try to have that warranty 10 years because it matches a lot of the rooftop materials. So once it's on there, you can kind of leave it and forget it. So there's no big maintenance. You don't have to worry. You don't have to change it every couple of years. So that's kind of, makes us different as well.
Absolutely. Francis, I can hear our audience asking if this system Francis, I'm sorry. I meant Dominique.
He's probably aware of it too, though.
Yeah, no, but I got excited because I can definitely hear our audience asking if this system is compliant with current standards. We always hear about, is it compliant? Is it compliant?
Yeah, well, I mean, on the previous question you had asked, we know that meeting the standards is the most important thing, and I'm glad you asked because it does. And the way we've done it, and we can assure that it meets the different standards and is compliant, is actually we've done pre-certification testing with an engineering firm. So if you're doing the installation, which you should do based off our recommendation and installation guide, all the different combinations and parameters of installation have been tested out, and we have a compliance report readily available for customers so they can easily install the stuff and make sure and feel confident that it will meet the standards, both provincial and federal and even American standards. And note that we do try to keep really up to date. We do keep up to date on the different standards, even the CSA. We're also on the board and that kind of stuff. So we want to make sure that you guys feel confident when installing your system and you have all necessary information. And It makes it quicker too, because you can have the compliance report. You don't have to have an engineer come back on site and double check
Absolutely.
everything. So that's kind of makes it easier, quicker that way.
See, I did not even finish telling you that our audience, we're going to ask the question and Paul asked the question. So it's a good thing that.
Hopefully I answered that one, Paul. But yeah, all the information's available, and we've done our testing on a various number of standards.
Good. Dominic, in 2019, I think we're pretty much aware that the environment is important, and that if we don't take care of it, eventually
they're going to pay the price, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand that Delta Prevention is like.
Yeah, it's one of our values,
Yeah,
is
that's what I meant.
being a responsible, eco-friendly company. So we've come up with a word we call eco-lective, which obviously is a mix of eco-friendly and collective fall protection, because we know when we're talking about the hierarchy of protection, number two, passive is collective. That means you're securing a workspace more than just an individual, and we're keeping that eco-friendly. How we achieve eco-friendly, we mentioned the rubber counterweights. They are recycled from actually truck tires. It's all locally sourced in Canada, and even the energy, because we know aluminum, it takes a lot of energy to fabricate. It's made with hydroelectricity, so it makes it clean, and we don't have to ship stuff from China or UK, wherever competition stuff might be. So on the next slide, you want to kind of have an idea of the impact that is. Each counterweight is based off of 3 truck tires that are recycled. So in this section alone, example of a customer, we did 2,500 linear feet, and for that one alone, we used 990 tires, recycled tires for the counterweights for those. So
did you say like 990 tires?
Yeah, that many.
Okay, let me calculate this up. Just I'm thinking here, if 990 tires are used for this project, that's 55 18-wheel trucks, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a 55 18-wheelers worth of recycled rubber tires that are on there. So those are not going to be stuck in a landfill somewhere. So
Oh wow! Well, congratulations for that. It's amazing. I mean, it's part of the actuality right now. Like it makes the newspapers headline the environment. So it's important that we think about this. We're being proactive about our environment. So yeah, good.
So we did mention a lot of the guardrails, but we don't do just guardrails. We have a family of product that within the same landscape of scope of protecting people from falling hazards. So you've got the guardrails that can be put next to HVAC units, next to roof ladders. We do have access hatches, roof hatches, that we have guardrails that go around it. So that's another solution we offer to make sure, because that is a risk on itself. We have a permanent warning line, which is a complementary product to our guardrails, because often people want to have a perimeter, not necessarily where there's a fall risk, but they want to make sure people stay within the proper perimeter. So that can be easily added to our solution, or even those can become guardrails. We can easily transition that. So that's the whole host of product. We have also skylights and stuff like that we can protect.
Yeah, and part of our partnership with you guys is to create customized solutions. So we can see the range of solutions we could be providing.
Yeah, we don't do predetermined sections. Actually, we can whatever the length you need, whatever the angles, we can figure something out.
Awesome.
So I'm going to show you kind of typical examples of the use of our products. This one is a classic big HVAC unit that people need to work close to the edge on. So that's going to be protected with guardrails. You can see on the left side, it actually connects to a warning line. So we're not re-adding a post there. So it makes for an easy solution that way. On the next slide, it's pretty much the same thing, just on the smaller size. So it's another configuration of our guardrails using the same components. So that's going to make another use of it on a smaller scaled HVAC unit. Another one When you have a lot of maintenance to go on the roof edge, then you can make a straight long line, and that's often something we see. Optimize the space there and just protect all the way through. Another situation, the one we've seen in a previous picture, one I want to mention is that often we do fall risk for on the edge of the rooftop, but between different levels of roofs, when it's more than 10 feet apart, you do need that protection. So that's one very common use of our product. I know Francis has told me that that's one of the types of systems he's installed a few times. So we see a lot of those on different levels. So and then that's another one where it's an entire rooftop because there's just a lot of maintenance. So customer just wanted kind of an easy, no worry solution. So we just did the entire length of it, and and we can do corners, different angles, whatever it might be, different components where you're going to go around. So it's a very adaptable solution that way.
We have a question from Nancy here. We can see here there's like 3 base.
Yep.
2, 1, 1, 1.
Yeah, just because the 3, 2, 1s are in the beginning of a section, and since it's not connected to the next one, beginning and ends of sections will have more counterweights. So
Okay.
on the previous picture, if you want to go back just one, it makes kind of a C shape. The long ramp there is your actual fall protection, and the other 2 small kind of angled corners there, we call them returns. Those are actually meant to provide the strength to the guardrails to meet the standards. So the same thing applies on the next picture, but instead of it kind of hooking back in, we just put more counterweights at both extremities, ends of our different sections. So that's the only reason why. So on long lengths, you'll see most of the 1, 1, 1, but it'll always end in a 2, 3 counterweight system.
Okay. And Catherine is asking, is there a maximum length in between the 2 sections, or?
Yeah, everything it's all in the installation guide. So the previous section you showed was 120 inches, so 10 feet. This one between the main, let's say, call it the 1 counterweights, like between the 2 and 1, and then the other ones, it's 78 inches. Okay. But all of that's been done in our engineering tests, and it's in the installation guide and procedures. So when people do an installation, there's no question to be asked. It's all mentioned. It's all there. It's all kind of easily adaptable. And we always include all the necessary components to make sure you have sufficient posts and counterweights to position them in the right distance and meet the standards.
Also, SPI can help with the installation, right? That's
absolutely.
Part of the partnership is we have the skilled people to install, make sure it's compliant with the norms and standards as we were asking.
Yeah, actually,
for,
we have a team that does the installation for the Delta guardrails for SPI.
Good. I'll let you go on with the different situations.
Yeah. Same thing, but different application. We've seen a lot of HVAC units and stuff, but one of the main issues, and heads up, you might have a question about this later on, is a common thing is roof access ladders. So once you're on your rooftop and you've climbed up the ladder, you're actually in a hazardous position. You're at risk of falling near that ladder. So we've built kind of a system especially adapted for those ladders, and you can see in the picture one is fits and even like in a corner, in a situation where your ladder's on a corner, and the other one's kind of your typical left and right side of the ladder. We just provide the necessary guardrails to make sure you're safely accessing that roof.
Okay.
So that's a picture seen on the other side. So we've made it so also that you have plenty of clearance once you're on that roof to walk about and not trip over our stuff. So real common use on the picture. That's another one that I'm seeing a whole lot of. Roof hatches. So you need to secure both the access to that hatch, and also once it's open, that is actually a risk in itself. So we want to make sure we build something around that so it's easily done. You can see it's not using our counterweight system, but it's actually a threaded rod system that's kind of clamped on. So it's yet again non-penetrating self-supporting systems. So no worries there in terms of engineering or leakage or anything, and it fits to a variety of sizes. You've got like kind of one of the most common sizes there, and on the next picture, different sizes will adapt accordingly, and make sure that all these roof hatches are protected.
Before we go on to the next slide, we have a question from Dan. All installation appears to be flat on flat roofs. Is this product suitable for sloped roofs?
We've done slope roofs, so depending on the slope angle, we can have an adapted solution. It does require a bit more work in terms of seeing how many counterweights or whatever, but it's been done. So our most common are flat roofs, but we've done angle roofs. That's something we can absolutely do. If we get the information from you, we can take a look at it and kind of let you know that.
Assess the situation and see what
it
could
entails.
Be the
Yeah,
best. Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
So skylights, those are also those need protection, because obviously somebody tripping over and falling through, not a good idea. So we have a solution for that, and we can use the same pressure system you've seen on the roof hatch and previous pictures to clamp around a skylight when it's the right size and you've got enough space to do it. Otherwise, we've got both options there, and we can adapt to different sized skylights easily. So those are just different examples of sizes we've easily gone around.
All right, thank you, Dominic. Another question for you guys. We've showed you a different situations, and we want to know which of these situations is applicable to your building. Is it the access ladder? Is this the access hatch, the skylight, or the HVAC unit, the ventilation unit? So we'll give you a few seconds. You can choose more than one answer this time. Don't be shy. It's second to last question for you guys before we get into the warning lines. A few more seconds. All right. So the result should have popped on your screen. So 36% of the people are actually have access ladder on their building, and 45% ventilation units. A few percentage for the access hatch and the skylight. So
I'm actually surprised that it's so little, because if they're not accessing the rooftop through a ladder or a hatch, I'm wondering how the rest of the people are accessing. So it might be that they have some type of protection or something already around it, but most people have to have a way to go to reach the rooftop. So
yeah.
But we do see HVAC units being one of the more issues, because it's not just a matter of access, it's a matter of a lot of people working there often. So that's where you want to protect often.
Okay. Good. Right. So talking about warning lines.
Yeah, there you go. You had mentioned it. So warning lines don't have the same requirements, but it is a good product that complements our guardrails, because we actually use the same product, but instead of having aluminum railings, we're using nylon covered steel cables, and we're connecting that to existing guardrails if possible. Otherwise, we can just make warning lines by themselves. But it does serve a purpose often of creating proper perimeters, so people know not to go on that section of the rooftop or just not near the edge. And it often connects between our different guardrails. So that's a really common use of that. So that's something we do, and it's same warranty, same product, aluminum and stuff. So it's meant to last.
We can see, I think, on your next slide. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is like a really typical and safe rooftop, actually. So you have the access ladder there. We're going to protect that 10 feet. We put 10 feet there of railing because that's kind of the common size you see on our access ladder guardrails. Guardrails meant for access ladders. Then you see the green line, which that would be a warning line. Then that would connect to exactly the guardrails. So we would put the warning lines obviously 6.5 feet away from the edges, because that's common practice to keep people safe. But that in this scenario, you've got like a complete roof where you don't have to worry, because people coming out the roof access ladder, they'll be securely safe near that ladder, then if they want to go do any type of maintenance, they'll stay within the warning line, and then they'd be working and protected while they're working. So there's kind of a complete solution that way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what you said, range of products for
There you go. There you go. We could have put
different.
like a skylight in there or a roof hatch. That would have worked the same way, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Our last question for you folks today. We are wondering if you've already carried out a risk analysis regarding securing your roofs. So this time you have to pick one, A, B, or C. So no, you have not carried out a risk analysis, but would need one. B, yes, you did, but you may need to be reviewed by an expert. Or C, yes, we did carried out a rooftop fall risk analysis and it's in good standing. So we'll give you a few seconds to answer. Don't be shy, it's the last question. A few more seconds. Oh, we see people are, maybe you guys are thinking, maybe you need to get the information to ask around. But have you carried out a rooftop fall risk analysis? All right, the results are out on your screen. So more than 50% of you have done a recent rooftop fall risk analysis, which is good, and it's in good standing, so that's interesting. And 20% of you have not, but may need an analysis, and 20% of you did one, but may need to have it reviewed. Are you surprised by these answers, or?
Yes and no. I mean, it's really good that a lot of you have done it. So that's great news because either you've secured once you've had the results, or you know what you need to secure. So either way, that's good because you can act on good information. The rest of you, I'm guessing, obviously, it might be planned. But yeah, I'm not that surprised. And it's good that people, actually do it though.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing, right?
Want people to be proactive. And
yeah, I want to be, our goal is to have people stay safe. So
yeah,
good.
Absolutely.
Well, from my perspective, I'm a bit surprised from the 60%, but I think like the question asks, have you already carried out a rooftop fall risk analysis? So you might have done it, but have you ever put in the equipment in place to actually secure the hazardous areas that you found in your risk analysis? Because sometimes I drive around and I see a lot of buildings that they have HVAC systems and ladders and skylights that aren't protected.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, I think the number's pretty high.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see it high though.
But then again, it's recent, so they just may not have the time to deploy everything. So
yeah. Well, anyhow,
I'm staying positive. I'm thinking you guys are good.
Yeah, and I mean the goal is to get home safe at night. So if you guys are protected, then I guess our mission is accomplished, right? So it's question time. Feel free to ask if you're too shy to. We've answered a few questions as we went along, but if you do want to send us some questions, by all means do now. You may also do it after. Be sure that every single question will be answered on an individual basis. Maybe while people are wondering if they're going to ask their question or not, we could talk about, we've mentioned it a little bit throughout the webinar, but SPI has a whole department of training and expertise, which Francis was part of it. He's still part of it.
Still part of it, but in a different role.
Yeah.
I used to be a trainer advisor.
Yep.
Now I'm the sales representative for the service side of things for SPI. So what do we do? Some people think that we only do training sessions, or now maybe you only think that we sell some Delta guardrail systems. But that's a thing that we do, but we also do some lockout, tag out work. So training sessions, we do some turnkey programs too. We do some risk analysis for different equipment that you have. on your work site. We do some fall protection training, rescue training for work at heights. Also fall protection work analysis, like we just said, for like rooftop analysis for guardrails, or for inside of your workplace. Do you need a certain anchor point at a certain place? Well, we have engineers that works for us that can certify certain anchor points.
We can install guardrails.
Install guardrails, install lifelines, install different fall protection systems too. We do a lot of electrical safety work with arc flash too, arc flash analysis. Confined space analysis, confined space programs for your workplace, your company. Some training sessions. We also have a confined space simulator that we can work with for training sessions. We have a hygiene department too for industrial hygiene. For the respiratory protection is, I guess, the image for our
for hygiene department.
Yeah, exactly. And also machine safety, fire protection services, and organizational health and safety leadership too. So these are all things that we can help you guys out with if ever you have questions or there's a need in those fields.
Some of you may know SPI as a PPE provider, but we go way beyond this.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to go up. We want to tackle this as an up risk management. We don't want to just protect you from the equipment. We want to protect you before you actually.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned earlier, if you, with the guardrail systems, you may not need the PPEs. If you do, you go with that strategy. So
exactly.
Again, that's our mission, and we can help you out with this. You just have to give us a shout. We will be glad to get into contact with you. As we mentioned, we're a pan-Canadian company, so we're from coast to coast. So if time is running by pretty quickly, but we will answer your questions if you do have any through email on an individual basis. Before we let you go, well, thanks, Francis. Thanks, Dominic, for your time, your expertise, for giving us a lot of information in different situations that could maybe speak to our audience today. So thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. We want to invite you to subscribe to our newsletter if you want to receive all of the details on our upcoming events, on different promotions. We also have a new tab on our website, actually, which is named Event. Under this tab, you can see all of the upcoming events and webinars at any time. You may also register, obviously, when registrations are open. We want to invite you to our social media, Facebook and LinkedIn. We post frequently on a daily basis. We post information, promotions, articles, new rules and regulations that may come out. You'll find all of that information, that useful information on there. As I mentioned at the beginning, we do have a quick survey for you in order to see what we did good, what we could have improved. It's very important for us. We want to innovate all the time, and we need you for that. So please take a couple of minutes to answer it. And we want to let you know that next week we're having another webinar on for fall protection in confined space. So if you want to register, there's still 1 week to do so. So don't hesitate. You can contact me. My email address and my phone number is on the screen. I'll be happy to help you out with that. So on behalf of SPI and Delta, we wish you a great day. Be safe. See you next time.